Today is Wednesday, August 2nd. We'll break down all the charges in the newest indictment against former President Trump and explain how he and his team are responding. This one accuses him of conspiracy to steal the 2020 election. Also, the story of one school that may have prevented a tragedy this week. Plus, what's behind fire tornadoes popping up on the West Coast, how chatbots from Meta could be different than others already available, and how you could stay in Gwyneth Paltrow's guest house with all the Goop amenities and even a private dinner with the celebrity. Those stories and more news to know in today's episode. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. It is another unprecedented criminal case against former President Trump. For the third time this year, Trump was indicted. This time by a federal grand jury accusing him of trying to overturn the results of the 2020 election. The former president is now charged with 3 conspiracies to defraud the U.S., obstruct an official proceeding, and to deprive people of their constitutional rights. Specifically, this is over actions that prosecutors say led up to the January 6th riot at the U.S. Capitol. Many of the details referenced in the indictment have been poured over before, like by that House panel that investigated the attack last year. For example, it goes into Trump's alleged efforts to claim the election had been ruined by fraud, even though he had been told many times that wasn't true, even by his own Justice Department. It also got into how he apparently leaned on officials in battleground states he lost to support his efforts. And then how he eventually called his supporters to Washington and told them to, quote, fight like hell just before they marched to the Capitol. This all comes after a months-long investigation in which the grand jury heard from many high-profile witnesses. In response, though, former President Trump called the whole case a pathetic attempt to interfere with the next presidential election, since he's currently the Republican frontrunner. Trump is scheduled to appear in federal court on these charges tomorrow. It looks like one school in Tennessee might have avoided a tragedy this week. Police say a man tried to enter a Jewish school in Memphis, fired a gun outside, and eventually left. Students are still on summer break, so only a few staff and construction workers were at the school at the time, and no one was hurt. Still, one Jewish security organization yesterday said it could have been worse, and that work over the last decade to keep Memphis's Jewish community safe prevented the worst from happening. The organization says a school employee contacted police right away, and security camera footage apparently helped law enforcement identify the gunman and track his license plates. Soon after officers found the man in his truck near the school, they say he got out with a gun in his hand, so they shot him. And at last check, he was in critical condition in the hospital. A congressman who represents Tennessee says the gunman was Jewish himself and used to go to that school. The security organization has actually been working for years on a security program for synagogues, schools, and a community center. Employees say they don't want to get into details about this exact school's security because of safety concerns, but in general, they promote measures like an external gate with a keypad, ballistic film on windows and glass doors, entries that require a fob, and more. So remember earlier this month, we told you about hazing allegations at Northwestern University? It started with former college athletes who say they were abused while they were on the football team. Now there are allegations surrounding other Northwestern sports teams too. The football coach and baseball coach have already been fired. Well, in the latest development this week, the university decided to hire a former U.S. Attorney General to lead an investigation. Loretta Lynch, who was AG under former President Obama, will be looking into the culture of the Northwestern Athletics Department and its anti-hazing procedures specifically. The athletic director says his department welcomes it, but some lawyers representing athletes suing the school criticize this announcement as a publicity stunt, and they say the results of previous investigations should be made public first. Still, Lynch's investigation is now underway, and that one will become public whenever she wraps it up. A historic settlement was just reached in a case that's more than 70 years and countless medical breakthroughs in the making. It all goes back to a Black woman named Henrietta Lacks. She was being treated for cervical cancer in the 1950s when white doctors removed cells from her tumor without her knowledge or permission. Those cells went on to allow many advancements in modern medicine, including research about the human genome, cancer, and AIDS. They also played a critical role in the development of polio, HPV, and COVID-19 vaccines, as well as in vitro fertilization. At the time this happened, federal regulations requiring patient consent weren't yet in place. But still, as her lawyers argued, she and her family never saw any compensation stemming from the very profitable research made possible by her cells without her permission. Flash forward to this week, and the family reached a settlement with the science and technology company Thermo Fisher Scientific. The terms of the settlement agreement were not made public, but as the Wall Street Journal points out, it's just the latest development in a story that represents the legacy of minorities mistrusting scientific and medical communities. Now the family's lawyers say the settlement represents a measure of respect, dignity, and justice for Henrietta Lacks. A wildfire that started in a California national park is now so intense that it's spawning spinning whirlwinds of fire, which some are calling fire-nados. This is the fire we told you about that started in California's Mojave National Preserve, crossed state lines into Nevada and Utah, and has become the largest fire in the U.S. so far this season. And the fire whirls are now making it especially dangerous. As the Mojave National Preserve explains them, they're basically vortexes of flames and smoke that form when intense heat and winds combine, creating spinning columns of fire. They're so dangerous because they can spread embers over long distances and start new fires along their path. Plus, they can change direction suddenly, making them unpredictable. What's also making things tough is the heat. At last check, the fire was about 23% contained, but thankfully, no one has been reported hurt. We have much more news for you still ahead, but first, this episode is sponsored by ZocDoc. While I do think Google and social media can be helpful resources for gathering information and having good questions to ask, I definitely do not think they should be your go-to places for medical information and diagnoses. They can cause unnecessary anxiety and, to be honest, have questionable sources as so-called experts. So when I really need to know what's going on with my health or my family's health, I turn to trusted professionals with the credentials in that specific area instead of random people on the internet. And ZocDoc offers a great way to find some of those actual experts that are nearby, available, and take your insurance. Yes, ZocDoc is the only free app that lets you find and book doctors who are patient-reviewed, take your insurance, are available when you need them, and treat almost every condition under the sun. No more scouring the internet for unclear and conflicting answers. Join the millions of people already using this free app. Go to ZocDoc.com/newsworthy and download the ZocDoc app for free. Then find and book a top-rated doctor today. Many are available within 24 hours. That's ZocDoc.com/newsworthy. ZocDoc.com/newsworthy. Now back to the news. New research confirms what California surfers have been saying for a while. The waves are getting bigger. A study published this week looked at nearly a century's worth of data and found the average height of winter waves especially has grown by about a foot since 1969. And scientists say it all goes back to climate change. Warmer ocean temperatures and inflows of fresh water from melting ice caps have caused sea levels to rise, along with the energy in ocean waves. And they're expected to rise even more in the future. Bigger waves might be a welcome sight for surfers, but they can also be damaging to California's coast. But of course, scientists say that all depends on how much the world is able to get global warming under control by doing things like cutting greenhouse gas emissions. Another big change is coming for the district that governs the iconic Walt Disney World theme park and resort. This week, the board announced it's doing away with all of its diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, as well as any race-based hiring practices. The previous board apparently advanced those initiatives, creating gender and racial quotas, so even contractors had to meet a certain threshold of diversity. But the new board, appointed by Florida Governor Ron DeSantis after a year-long feud with Disney, says it will, quote, no longer participate in any attempt to divide us by race or advance the notion that we are not created equal. So far, no comment from Disney World. Expect to see more artificial intelligence chatbots rolling out soon. As the Financial Times reports, Meta is preparing AI chatbots that, like others, will be able to have human-like discussions with users. But these ones will also reportedly exhibit different personalities. The report says the social media giant is even looking into a chatbot that speaks like Abraham Lincoln, and another that gives travel options in the style of a surfer. So far, no official comment from Meta about this new report, but the Financial Times says these new bots could come out as soon as next month. Separately, Bloomberg News says Apple is working on new AI offerings, reportedly testing a chatbot some engineers call Apple GPT. Microsoft, Anthropic, Google, and other companies also have AI tools that they're working on now. You'll soon get a chance to vacation at Gwyneth Paltrow's home via Airbnb, or at least her guest house. And not only that, you're also invited to have a private chef's dinner with her and her husband as part of that experience. Paltrow posted a tour of the stunning Montecito, California guest house on her Instagram page, writing, quote, Airbnb had the brilliant idea of doing something to make our lives a little less lonely, which is why I'm inviting you to come stay. In addition to the private dinner, Paltrow says you can do things like lay by the luxurious pool, go on one of her favorite hikes, have a bathroom stocked with products from, where else but Paltrow's skincare line, Goop, and more. Now, this stay is for up to 2 people for one night only on September 9th, and booking begins at 10 a.m. on August 15th. You can see the listing at airbnb.com/goop or follow the link in our episode notes. All right, now it's time for Work Wednesday, when we break down one interesting career or work-related news story every Wednesday. But first, a break for our sponsor, AG1. I drink it every day now because I now feel more sustained energy throughout my day since starting it. I can also tell it supports gut health, and I appreciate that it's supporting my immune system too. We're talking 75 high-quality vitamins, probiotics, and whole food-sourced ingredients. I drink AG1 as part of my morning routine before I really get going and start my day. It's easy to put in a to-go cup while I have to run around with my toddler or make breakfast for him, and it makes me feel like I'm also doing something for myself and for my body. It's so easy to make with 1 scoop mixed with ice water. I personally like a splash of lemon, and in that moment, I have started the day on the right foot. And yes, I have tried a bunch of different supplements, but I love that AG1 is one solution to support whole body health. So if you are looking for a similar effective investment for your health, try AG1 and get 5 free AG1 travel packs and a free 1-year supply of vitamin D with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/newsworthy. That's drinkag1.com/newsworthy. Check it out. Okay, now back to Work Wednesday. There are signs the hot jobs market we've seen in the U.S. the last couple of years is stabilizing. New federal data out this week shows the number of job openings fell to about 9.6 million in June. That number has gone down by the millions since last spring, when the Federal Reserve first started raising interest rates. Now, this is the lowest number of job openings in 2 years, with about 1.6 jobs now available for every unemployed worker. It really depends on the industry, though. For anyone looking to get into healthcare or state or local government, there's actually more jobs available. But there were big dips in the number of available jobs in education, transportation, warehousing, utilities, and more. Plus, fewer people quit and fewer people were laid off as compared to other months of the year. Economists say this is pretty good news for the overall economy, at least, since fewer workers changing jobs over time means businesses are under less pressure to raise pay to find and keep workers. And slowing wage growth could help to slow inflation. Now, we should know even more about the jobs market as a whole by the end of this week, since the July jobs report is set to come out on Friday. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your support of this show, and we love to know that we are part of your daily routine. All right, we'll catch you up on more news to know tomorrow. Until then, have a great day.